Kia ora koutou katoa, he ropu matou o Nyahoa, Wairua I Aotearoa. Hello everyone, we are a group of Spiritist friends here in Aotearoa, New Zealand, and we welcome you all to be part of our chat as part of the first World Spiritist Month. My name is Mani, I'm Brazilian by birth and also a Kiwi or New Zealander for the last 26 years. I was born in a Spiritist home and I have spent most of the time that I study Spiritism here in New Zealand in the last 16 years. And today I'm going to be the host of this conversation about how spirits react to skepticism as part of this amazing international event at the first World Spiritist Month. And we have an awesome panel composed by Alcione, Carol, and André. So let's go around and meet our panelists. Alcione?
Hello, everybody. My name is Alcione, and this name is actually from a Spiritist book called Renunciation. I was born in a Spiritist family, same as Mani. By the way, he's my brother, so we are from the same family, literally. And I've been studying Spiritism since I was a kid, and I was, as you guys can tell, born in Brazil, but living in New Zealand for about 17 years. I'm really happy to be here today and be part of this conversation. Thank you.
Carol?
Hello, everyone. My name is Carol, or Carol, and I'm also Brazilian, and I'm from Rio, and I've been living here in New Zealand for the past 6 years, and part of the Allan Kardec Spiritist group since I arrived in Auckland. And my family in Brazil I am not Spiritist since I was from birth, but since I was a kid, probably I've been going to children and youth studies since I was about 6 years old. But I've been lucky enough to meet those guys and be in our Spiritist family here in New Zealand for the past 6 years. And really happy to be here today, trying to spread the message, hopefully through more countries around the world. Really excited.
Awesome. Thanks, Carol. And we have André.
Thank you, Mani. My name is André. I'm from Brazil as well, and I've been living in New Zealand for almost 3 years now. I'm part of the Allan Kardec Spiritist group of New Zealand, and I'm a Spiritist since I was born. And that's it.
Cool. Awesome. Thanks, guys. Thanks, everybody, for taking the time, for being here with us to have this chat, this conversation. This is going to be fantastic. So pretty much we chose this theme of this topic, skepticism, because it has always been a challenge for Spiritism since the very early beginning up to these current times. But we are not alone when we are facing this daunting attitude towards the knowledge that the superior spirits presented and brought to us. In fact, Arthur Schopenhauer, a German philosopher in the 19th century, he predicted that all truth goes through 3 stages. First, it is ridiculed, then it is violently opposed, and finally, it is accepted as self-evident. And we can observe this behavior in different areas of knowledge throughout the history. And Hippolyte Léon Denisard Rivail, also known by the pen name of Allan Kardec, the codifier, the compiler of the basic works of his new science, coming from an academic and also studying science, he had been studying science from a very early age. He was someone who developed a very analytical and critical sense. He realized that this issue, this topic, was such an important one that he decided to address it at the very beginning, right in the introduction of the Spirit's book from 1857, but also later on in the first chapter of the book, What is Spiritism, in 1859. It's important to mention that Allan Kardec himself, he started off as his investigations as a skeptic. In 1854, when one of his friends, Mr. Fortier, he came with a very strange news, and he informed Kardec that the turning tables, they were not just moving, they were speaking, that when they were asked a question, they would answer as if they were intelligent. and revile, of course, with his very strict logic in that sense, that goes against any unreasonable enthusiasm. He listened to everything very carefully, and then he replied, like a true man of scientific reason. He said, "I will only believe when I see them, and they can actually prove to me that a table has brains to think, has nerves to feel, and they can move around like a sleepwalker. Until then, I see it as nothing more than a told story." So the superior spirits, they knew that even the harshest critics could be reasoned with, just like Kardec went from a skeptic to become the organizer and also the avid supporter and the main disseminator and propagator of Spiritism. And on the first chapter of What is Spiritism, entitled A Brief Discussion, he actually interviewed 3 people from different parts of society, and then he presented different perspectives of society. One was more from a philosophical point of view, another from a scientific point of view, and finally from a religious point of view. And he produced counter arguments to all of them with over 100 pages. So he was prepared to have a conversation with people that were skeptical about this new science, which was something that was never really heard about in such a organized method that he did in the ways. So what would you have to say about that, Alcione? Do you have something to contribute about the skeptics?
Yes, Manny, thank you. So we Spiritists, we have lots of respect for the skeptics' attitude, because their disposition to listen, to learn, and try to understand really shows humility, and we really respect that. At the same time, we do respect all those that already have a firm conviction and already have a strong identification with other religions. And that's fine. That's not a problem at all. Because the Spiritism doesn't want to impose on anybody, doesn't want to force a conviction. We learn with the superior spirits that we all have our individuality. We have our own characteristics, and we learn in different ways. We learn by different means. Therefore, if someone is a skeptic, may become a spiritist because of the experimental part of Spiritism, such as manifestation of the spirits, the communication between the material plane and the spiritual plane. Other people may become spiritists when they study or learn the philosophical part of it. And even people that do that, such as us, most of us, we still need to keep studying for our whole life. We need to read, understand, reason, everything in order to learn Spiritism. And it's not easy, right? I tell you that now. But the reward of becoming a Spiritist and actually applying what we learn in our daily lives is really great. We start being better people and improve ourselves. We can do that if we like. So it's not easy, but it's really good for us. When Kardec was codifying or compiling his work, he saw the need to create a few words. But for this topic, we're just going to mention 2 of them, Spiritism and Spiritistas, because at his time, these words didn't exist. Similar words existed already, such as spiritualist and spiritualism. But he knew that to provide clarification and to avoid misunderstandings, he needs to create these new words, because a spiritualist is someone whose doctrine is contrary to materialism. And also, a spiritualist believes that there is something else apart from the material plane around us. Spiritists also believes that the doctrine is contrary to materialism. They believe there is something else apart from the material plane. Plus, Spiritists believe that manifestation of spirits is real, there is communication between the material plane and the spiritual plane as well. So there is a differentiation there, and was very important that Kardec could create these words to put on the books of his codification. So thank you, Kardec, for it. That helped us a lot to understand this beautiful doctrine.
Yeah, and I think it's very valid point that you bring, that, you know, because he came from a scientific background, so he knew that if he didn't create those words, confusion would arise from it, because people, and probably people wouldn't even be interested. People would just be going, oh, spiritualist, oh, I know what that is. Or people just assume they didn't know what that is. Or spiritualist, oh, yeah, I heard that before. But then spiritism or and spiritist is different. Even like from personal experience here in New Zealand, you know, where this the spiritism is not very well known, it's very known yet. People ask us, so what do you believe in? And I go, oh, I'm a spiritist. I said, oh, spiritualist. No, spiritist. Oh, what's that about? And then we have the opportunity to tell other people and pass the message on to others. So it's very wise of him to make that distinct naming of this new sign. So it's very very important from the time it was brought up to now. So it's very wise, very important. Wouldn't you say so, Carol?
Yeah, and I think it's very, very much like a scientist. Every time science discovers something new, it needs to come up with new names, right, to label those things. So as he was discovering something that he considered, and we consider a science, it needed a new name, it needed new definitions, right? You don't name new bugs that were figured out in nature the same names as other ones, right? You need to differentiate them. So I find that quite obvious when you start studying Spiritism and understanding that it's a science, a philosophy, and also a religion. It makes a lot of sense that you have new names and new definitions for things that we might have heard something similar before. So Alcione talked a lot about skepticism and how important it is for us to question things, how important it is for us to make questions and not only believe on things because it's supposed to be or because someone said so. It's a very important part of questioning things, of having doubts, is being open to whatever answer you get for your questions. So it's important that we are all curious. So being curious means you are open to discovery, you asking questions, you are after the truth, not only what you believe to be the truth, but the actual truth. So science is always curious, right? When we were studying for this topic, I kept thinking of that saying that we have in Portuguese that says that the worst type of blind is the one that refuses to see, right? So how many, in so many topics, we are very blind to the truth because we have our own beliefs, we have different backgrounds, and we just don't want to believe. And in so many cases, people just have difficulty admitting that they were wrong, so they are going to carry on reinforcing that truth that they had, that sometimes they don't even believe in it anymore, but just because they can't admit they were wrong they changed their minds. So it's a big sign of intelligence and a big sign of it's really humble of us to actually admit that we were wrong, and really a sign of a very intelligent person to say that you changed your mind, because we know that science keeps evolving, and being in conversation with other people makes us evolve, makes us understand things that we didn't the day before, and today we can actually understand. So it's really important that we live in society and that we are hearing other people, that we are disagreeing, but also listening to each other. So also on this topic, we talked about reasons why people would actually start being part of a spiritist group or start studying Spiritism, and a lot of people come attracted because of the phenomena, so because of mediumship, because they heard people were mediums, or they go to sessions, and why we believe in Spiritism that is so important. For example, mediumship, mediunic meetings are something that we have, that you study a lot to do it. So the phenomena is not a show, is not a circus that you go to watch, is a part of the studies, and it is just a small component of it. Majority of it is just us studying, trying to understand the world around us, and trying to understand the path on becoming a better person, the path of evolution. So in the 1800s, we needed us, and when I say we, it's because obviously we believe in reincarnation, so some of us might even have been there, believe that in that time we needed a big demonstration of a powerful tool for the conversation to kickstart. So people at that time needed the phenomena, the turning tables, and everything that happened at the time to start the conversation about Spiritism. And now we don't need that anymore. We have science to back it up. All of this that we're studying, it doesn't sound so foreign, so out of this world anymore, because science is here to back it up, and that's where we're heading. Science will be able to prove more and more all of this that we have been studying for so long, and that Kardec compiled on his work.
Yeah, and interesting that you say that, about the supernatural and the extraordinary, which it was a big calling for the people, to call people's attention at the time, to draw them into what the spirits wanted to say. But it's still, up to these days, we still have a lot of skeptical people of this supernatural, and also the extraordinary as well, which our friend Andre will be dealing with this topic, right, Andre?
Yes, thanks, Mani. And I will be talking about the extraordinary and supernatural. So what is the extraordinary and supernatural? Everything that we don't know or we don't understand completely can be called supernatural. So when we comprehend an idea or we know the root cause of a phenomenon, it is natural to us. There is nothing to worry about. We know everything. So there is nothing of supernatural or extraordinary in it. And in order to understand everything about a specific topic to become natural, it is essential that we approach it with any bias, because our preconcepts can make us believe or disbelieve in something without any proof, and then leading us to wrong conclusions or like a partial understanding of the subject. So all those new ideas, they should go through a lengthy process of observation and validation. And the first tool that's available to everyone to use is the reasoning. So no published scientific discoveries can be called supernatural, because all those discoveries, they went through a scientific method which tests, replicates the results, and then many times until there is nothing less to be tested, and only then it's accepted as true. Allan Kardec, like Mani said in the beginning, had his first contact with the spirit phenomenon by watching the turning tables. And then once he realized there was smart beings behind the phenomenon, the spirits, he started researching them, and as a conclusion, and with the help of the same spirits, he published the Spirit Book, which explains many concepts that for us back then were extraordinary. Spiritism isn't just a science, it's also a religion and a philosophy too. Spiritism is concerned about the spiritual world, how we should behave to become perfect beings, and then they tell us, the Spiritism tell us that we are spiritists, explains all the Jesus Christ teachings. It helps us to, let's say, know ourselves, and among other things. But however, all those concepts, they have something in common. They have a logical reasoning behind them. So we don't need to just believe on those concepts, on those ideas. We must use our own reasoning to believe, because we really understand those ideas. So in conclusion, all those concepts we call extraordinary and supernatural are just something that we don't understand completely. There are many things that we still don't know, but we are in the beginning of our evolution process, and definitely with time, we will be able to know everything and understand the purpose behind all things created by God.
Yeah, I think it's quite interesting. Thanks, Andre. And I think it's quite interesting that you mentioned about, that people have these preconceived ideas, and, from even before they start to study and analyzing it, because that's one of the main things that we have seen from one of the strong opposition towards the mediumistic phenomena and spiritism, because this opposition comes from scientific institutions, even back then and even nowadays, these academies of higher learning, but we can safely say that they are inclined to analyze everything from the point of view of the area of their own area of knowledge. For example, mathematicians will look at evidence in numbers and formulas, calculations. Physicists will analyze the structure of matter. Chemists will relate everything to the interaction of the elements, and so on. But we must emphasize that Spiritism, we do not place ourselves against all these scholars and all these different types of science, and we're not disrespectful towards them. By the contrary, we hold them in very high regards, and science and the followers as well. But their opinions and findings of the mathematicians, the physicians, the chemists, and other scientists, they do not represent an unquestionable judgment in every circumstance. They might be experts in their own field, but when it comes to studying in a whole life, in the whole elements of life, they don't have a definite answer, especially when we are facing this new science, which is Spiritism, that deals with the nature, origin, and the destiny of spirits, and the relationship with the material, the corporeal world. And when it comes to these new principles and unknown matters, mainstream science looks at them and is nothing more than hypothetical, because they always observe this evidence in the light of their own preconceived knowledge and prejudices. And physical science are based on the properties of matter, which can be subjected to experimentations and manipulated at their will whenever we want. But spirit phenomena, on the other hand, is not subject to our desire. It doesn't depend. It depends on the action on the other intelligence, the intelligence of the spirits, and they have their own will. So we're not able to do the same experiments that our science, our current science, does. So spirits manifestations, they cannot be dealt in the same way as the physical matter. They require these special conditions and different approach in trying to subject them to this type of investigations. But science has come a long way. But however, we have to remember that there's so much more to know. There's so much more that is unknown. And nowadays, the physicists have identified that only 4% of the matter that makes up the universe. The remaining 96% is labeled dark matter or dark energy. So we know there is something there, but we don't know what it is. It's the majority of the universe. So instead of humbly reminding ourselves the little that we know, there is this tendency to think that we know everything, and it hasn't really worked out in the past. I'm going to quote a sentence from a Nobel Prize winning physicist, Albert Michelson. In 1894, he proclaimed, and I quote, "The more important fundamental laws and facts of physical science have all been discovered, and these are now so firmly established that the possibility of their ever being supplanted is, in consequence of the new discoveries, is exceedingly remote. End of quote. But have we discovered anything and developed any new fundamental laws since 1894? We have absolutely moved forward in the scientific field, right? And especially when it comes, not especially, but including when it comes to unveiling what used to be considered supernatural. Let's take, for example, the mediumistic phenomena or the spiritual phenomena that have been studied and observed in many different perspectives, depending on the epoch that it was studied. It was from feared and prosecuted in the fire of the Inquisition, with the burning of the people who showed some signs of mediumship, also was misunderstood and tortured up to the age of enlightenment with all the harsh psychiatric treatments, considered, mediumistic phenomena being considered of a disorder or disease. But nowadays, one of the mediumistic phenomena that we call obsession or fascination, it can be found in the ICD-10. ICD is the International Classification of Diseases by the World Health Organization, under the mental behavioral disorders or as a trance or possession disorder, which is a great step forward, something that was supposed to be supernatural and mistreated. Now is recognized by the World Health Organization, even if it's just a slight part of it is already started to be recognized. Furthermore, in Brazil, there was this study developed in 2000 by a researcher of the name of Ricardo Monesi, as a subject of the master degree in the Faculty of Medicine of USP, Universidade de São Paulo, in conjunction with Unifesp, proving that the energy released by the hands has a positive effect and a positive result in the treatment of diseases. And this work was organized to investigate the manual techniques of already used in society, like Jorei or Reiki, used in certain Eastern religions practices, but also in the spiritual treatment, or the pass, or passe, we call it in Portuguese, applied by spiritist centers around the world. So interest in these topics that was one considered supernatural and in the realm of extraordinary or mystical are now being investigated by science. In Brazil, the Brazilian Society of Cardiology, the Institute of Psychiatry in Universidade de São Paulo, the Faculty of Medicine in the Federal University of Juiz de Fora, they have all been investigating how patients' spirituality, not necessarily religion, but the spirituality, helps in the cure or physical and mental illnesses. But that doesn't stop in Brazil. In the United States, large educational institutions, Stanford School of Medicine, Duke University, Florida State University, Texas University, Columbia University, they maintain exclusive study centers on this subject, trying to see the result of the influence of the spirituality into the recovery of patients in many different types of levels of mortality goes down, depression going down, suicide, drug use, and even hospitalization. So we have come a long way from the early skepticism that spiritism and spiritualism, to some sense, have faced. And we understand that science is fundamental in the process of understanding the physical results of the relationship of the spiritual life and the corporeal life. And the scientific method, like Andre just said before, it was the way that Professor Hippolyte Rivail, he systematically collected and evaluated all these mediumistic phenomena and that he had been exposed to. And so from this chaotic mess of messages that he received from many places around the world and from many different spirits and from many different mediums, he received, he analyzed, he compiled, and to be able to extract all these fundamental principles and with the guidance of the superior spirits, of course. And they elaborated this new philosophical principle, this with a scientific character and with moral and religious consequences. Which brings us to the summary of this conversation today. And one of the most important results of his studies is the content of the message received from the Spirit suggests us to simply follow Jesus' greatest commandment, to love God above all and our neighbors as ourselves. And in the chapter 20 of the Gospel according to Spiritism, one of the books written or compiled by Kardec, Erastus, one of the superior spirits, is inform us that we will be able to recognize those who are on the righteous path by the principles of true charity that they profess and they practice, by the number of the afflicted people to whom they take consolation, by their love of the neighbor, their selflessness and their personal disinterestedness. And all this knowledge and understanding about the spirit's reality that we have from the mediumistic phenomena will be in vain if we don't use it to help us to overcome our weaknesses and our inferior inclinations and start helping all the people that are around us. So, so it's, I think the bigger picture, it's the one that we should be taking away from it. Of course, skepticism plays a very important part, but as we know, it will be very important to see it as a way to use it and make it useful somehow. Right, Alcione?
Yeah, Spiritism really helps me to understand life, to understand myself, and give me tools for my moral improvement. But I do know people that have other religions or maybe don't have religions, and they really make efforts to also do their moral improvement. So that means that in the end of the day, the most important is really our attitudes towards life. If we are charitable, if we are kind, and if we have compassion, we'll be helping others. We'll be contributing to a well-being of people around us, and we're contributing to the progress of humanity.
Yes, Asani, and I think it's really, all of us have different points of view. We come from different backgrounds, and we are going to disagree with people, and living in society can be quite hard, especially on a world of trials and expiations, but that's what makes us evolve. The difference between us is what pushes us forward. So all of us need to be open and knowing that none of us holds the full truth, that we're all here to learn, and we have so much in common, much more than we have different, right, from each other, like the topic of the studies of this event says, and that we all need to have an open mind and be respectful of each other's opinions, and that when in doubt, we should always believe in science, believe in what clearly makes sense, and like Mani said, believe in our conscience, that is following what Jesus taught us, that is true charity, being truly charitable, and having love as our religion. That's where we're moving towards, and hopefully the future.
Yes, and for me, Spiritism is one of the keys to help us in our evolution process. It will give us knowledge about the afterlife and what is expected from us. But it's not the only path. So to become like perfect beings, we have many religions, many teachings, and the only thing that matters, like everyone is saying before me, is charity. And I would like to leave you with a message from Paul, the Apostle, and it's in the Gospel according to the Spiritism. The true Spiritist and the true Christian are one and the same, given that all those who practice charity are the disciples of Jesus, without putting any embargo on whatever sect they may belong to.
Well, I think there's nothing left to say but a big kia ora and a big thank you all the way from Aotearoa, New Zealand. And we hope you guys enjoyed this chat that we had between us and you. And yeah, we wish you all the best in the rest of this celebration of the first World Spiritist Month. And we'll say you will a little kakite. See you next time. Bye-bye.
Kakite.
Bye-bye. See you guys.